Hello, YouTube. My name is Jose Martinez, and it's National Coming Out Day, uh, October 11th. So I thought, why not share my experience of coming out? And, well, it's actually been quite a while since I came out, but I figured, why not share it, especially on a day like today. Not only, I guess, maybe in hopes that it might be able to help someone during National Coming Out Day, especially since people choose to use this day kind of now to actually come out to their loved ones. Um, Hopefully this helps a little bit. I don't know. If anything, I guess really it's meant more as a thank you to certain people who helped me through this period in my life. So I guess let's get to it. I actually came out while on deployment to Iraq. Yeah, I was in the United States Marine Corps. Yeah, and I was on my first deployment to Iraq. Uh, I had two, but anyway, let's just say that prior to this point, I had been struggling with my sexuality for years and years and years. I believe it was my freshman year in high school that I first started to suspect that I was in fact gay. But I grew up in a very traditional Latin family, which, you know, their values are, they don't include homosexuality. Let's just say that. And anytime homosexuality was brought up in conversation, it was definitely not in good terms or anything like that. It was usually negative and um, kind of used very demeaningly and derogatory, really. So, I wasn't particularly okay with the idea that I might be gay. And then, of course, to join the military and have the policy of don't ask, don't tell still be in effect at the time, well, that just kind of didn't really, it wasn't, it just didn't help, really. But uh, in Iraq, with, my fellow Marines and everything, it just, everything changed, basically. Mainly because of the idea that, well, it was a real possibility that I could die in Iraq and that I would not be able to come back. And what really bothered me actually was kind of the notion that no one would ever really know who I was. Like, no one would actually know the real me. And that bothered me a lot. And the fact that I had not really been honest with anyone about who I was bothered me as well. But, I had a very real fear of rejection, of being hated, and not being accepted by the people around me, and not being accepted by my family, which is a very large part of my life. For 17 years, I grew up around them, and they were my best friends. And, my cousins were basically my siblings. My aunts and uncles were basically like another set of parents. My dad is the oldest of 11, and my mother is like the middle of five, and yet they all have several children. And I've met every single one of them. I've hung out with every single one of them. I'm good friends with all of them. So my family is a very, very large part of my life. And again, homosexuality was never really addressed in positive attitudes or anything like that. And, you know, up until that point, there was definitely no one in my family who was gay. Or at least not that they were out. Anyway, back to Iraq. It started to really kind of show in my attitude that something was bothering me, mainly because I'm a very happy person and I like to smile and laugh a lot. My nickname in the military was Smiley because, my fellow Marines were like, well, you smile way too much and you laugh at absolutely everything. I was like, well, yeah, it's just me. So I was a very happy person. And while in Iraq, of course, that changed. And, of course, you would think it would change. It's kind of a depressing thing to be out there to begin with. But it wasn't just that, because when I was out there, it didn't bother me. And even the idea that, well, actually, the idea that I want to come back from that bothered me. But again, it was more the idea that no one would ever really know me for me that started to bug me. And it started to show, and my fellow Marines started to take notice of it, and they started to get worried and concerned. And I know a few of them would kind of ask and be like, hey, are you alright? What's going on? But, this is still the time of don't ask, don't tell, and there's just no real way for me to kind of tell them the truth without really, without outing myself. And again, I had a very, very real fear that it was just like I was going to be rejected, I was going to be hated, and then I was going to get kicked out in the military, which I thought very pointless and demeaning, because it's like, well, why would you kick me out for being gay? You know. Anyway, one particular person, Lance Corporal Emmett, Amanda, I love you. She was out there with us, and we weren't front lines, so yeah. Before you start saying, yeah, female Marines are not, yeah, well, they're allowed. And even back then, yes, she was out there with us. We were all techs, and well, she kind of really took it upon herself to really figure out the truth. And she threw me in the back of a Humvee one day, and she kind of locked it and made it to where I couldn't get out. And she's like, "You're not getting out of here until you tell me what's wrong." And so I was kind of faced with the two choices, really. I could tell her the truth and come out, or I could just come up with another lie, basically what I'd been doing up until this point, and just let it go. And something about Amanda really kind of had been growing on me for a while now, and we had become pretty close. And she was someone who I kind of felt that I could trust slightly, just a little bit of me was like, tell her, tell her, tell her, but, of course, the larger part of me was like, no, don't do it. But I decided that I was going to tell her. Problem was, I literally could not tell her. I was paralyzed by that fear of rejection, that the words "I am gay" literally just, they wouldn't come out. I was just like, huh. And, I wanted to say it. I wanted to say it so badly. I wanted someone to know the truth. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't actually say it. And it really, really was starting to get to me. And I think she's really started to notice that I was getting frustrated, and that I was kind of talking in circles and trying to get my point across without saying it. And I finally kind of came out by telling her that I liked this show. And some of you might know the show. It's Queer as Folk. Okay, Queer as Folk, come on, people. I had watched it prior to seeing it, obviously, and I had seen most of it, actually, and it was a great show for me. It actually kind of helped me with figuring out that I was gay. For obvious reasons. But Amanda actually watched the show. She was actually a really big fan of one of the main characters, who she thought was incredibly attractive, which he is, obviously. So I actually used that to kind of out myself. I was like, hey, that show that you really like that I said I'd never watched before? She's like, yeah. I was like, well, I lied. I've watched it a lot, and I like it, a lot. She kind of just smiled and nodded, and she was like, yeah. She was basically like, she's like, say it. And I was just like, well, I like it for different reasons, or actually, I like it for the same reasons you do. And again, I was just getting incredibly jittery and nervous, and the fear was starting to settle in, and I was kind of panicking that she wasn't getting it, and that and the inability for me to actually say it would prevent me from actually taking advantage of this kind of moment. And I think she noticed that I was basically on the verge of tears. And so she kind of took it upon herself, and she just kind of stopped me, and she's like, you know what? I understand. I understand what you're trying to tell me, but I'm not going to say it for you. I hope that you can say it to me, because the truth is, I get it, and I love you, and if anything, I love you even more now. And that just kind of, like, the floodgates just opened, and I started bawling. And like I was trembling and shaking uncontrollably, and I I was just like, it was just like, oh my God, thank you. It's just like someone finally who knew. And not only did she know, but she accepted me and she loved me regardless of it. You know, she, this kind of support, it felt so incredible. And it was just so amazing to hear her say something like that. And I cried for like an hour, and she was like, I get it, whatever, let's move on from this, you need to stop being cranky. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And from then on, basically that irrational fear basically of being rejected and hated by everyone, it kind of went away, because regardless, I knew that I had her in my corner and that she would always kind of be there to support me even if she wasn't around, just to know that there's someone who loves you for you. It was a really great feeling. So, that kind of helped me ease into telling my family later on, which, wasn't, it wasn't as easy with my family. Again, you know, they, my mom, I guess in particular, took it really hard, and for several different reasons, which I guess if I ever get around to making another video, I'll tell you guys about. But basically, that's actually how I came out. I came out in Iraq to my best friend in the world, Amanda, who, if you're watching this, I absolutely love you. And I guess again, my real reasons for sharing that kind of moment was because, you know, at that time, I was so overwhelmed with this notion of rejection and fear and loneliness that it clouded me from actually being able to be honest. And even with someone like Amanda, who, you know, now that I think back on it, it's like, why didn't I tell her sooner? There were so many things that kind of were like, they were like advertised that she was supportive and loving, and yet I couldn't see them because I was so scared. I was so scared at the time. And I know that a lot of people, you're dealing with something like that. And so I hope that, you kind of watch this and you realize that, you know, it just takes some courage. It really does. And, if you need someone in your corner, well, I'm here. So, I guess if you ever really want to talk, I put some of my links down in the description. Hit me up on Tumblr or Instagram or Twitter or whatever, or leave comments here if you'd like. But yeah, basically, that's my coming out story, and I hope it can help anyone really watching. So, yeah. Have a great National Coming Out Day.